Thank you for watching Varvel Insider, and welcome to another how-to video.
This time we're going to jump into some After Effects and show you some basic principles that will make you end up with a cinematic result.
Whether you're just starting out in After Effects or whether you've been using After Effects for a long time, we feel like these are some essential tools that just keep popping up in almost every single project that you work on.
What better way than to use The War Within as an example?
The War Within, the film that we made. It's got a lot of different visual effects in the film, but this one is a more basic approach to the project. And so today we're going to be looking at some video compositions, some compositing tricks, all with inside of After Effects. So,
I'll tell you what, Brett, it sounds like a blast.
It is a blast.
Let's dive into it.
Let's get started, shall we? So here's the shot that we're going to be creating.
Release him.
So right there, just this whole shot right here with the vine revealing, this is what we're going to be working on. Let's not waste any more time. Here we go. Here's the original footage of our shots, and immediately we can see, yikes.
You can tell kind of where the prosthetic ends there and his face begins.
You see, there's something, you gotta understand something about the way that I like to work. I love capturing everything inside the camera. So we were fortunate enough to have Tony Kite, who used to go to our church, and he made this prosthetic for Darren. We put it on Darren's face, we glued it to his face. The makeup team did a great job blending it. However, we've got some spacage, and so we need to cover that up. So what I did when I was inside of Adobe Premiere, I took a screenshot of this, sent that to Photoshop, and inside of Photoshop, I cropped around the area that I wanted to fix, and I blended it inside of Photoshop into his skin. And this is what we ended up with after we left Photoshop.
Wow.
So you can see it's a much nicer blend to the chin area, smoother, looks more realistic. So now,
That's a good blend.
here's the problem though, that looks ridiculous. That just looks, well, there it looks good because that's the end shot. But how are we gonna get this to this?
Well, it's called tracking.
Motion tracking, something that is common in almost every single composition, if not ever.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new null object. We're going to open up a new tracking point. You just do that by clicking track motion. And what we want to do here is we want to find an area that's going to track well. How do we do that, Drew?
Well, you need to find something that has some high contrast to it, something where you have kind of a hard edge of a light area and a dark area. That way, and you set your point on that area, and that's going to be, that looks like a good one right there. That is going to allow you to track the motion pretty well.
So since we're at the end of our shot, we're going to track backwards by clicking the Analyze Backward, and we're going to get a nice track here.
It's working nice.
Now immediately we're going to run into some problems here. As soon as the vine goes back over the mouth, the tracking points are going to go psycho. That we'll have to do by hand. You simply go in to your tracking points here. So you open up your tracking points, go to the point where you know everything else is just going to go haywire. Let's delete those. Go to the first part of the shot and move it to about where we think the point needs to be, and then just fill in the blanks from there. So now that we've got our tracking data, we're going to make sure that our null object is selected. We're going to do that and hit apply, hit OK, and then we have our tracking data. Now, what we want to do now is we want to parent our Photoshop layer to the null object. So we're going to do that by pick whip to the null object. So now it follows everything. Looks okay, but it looks pretty bad at the same time. So
Because you have a floating picture on
we have a
top.
floating picture. So what we've done is we've created a mask that we want to.
I don't think films are made that way.
We've created a mask that we want to apply. This is back in our original comp. I'm just going to copy this over. And just for the sake of kicks and giggles, the way that you create a mask, if you don't know already, be sure you're selected on your layer. You're going to select your pen tool, and we're going to draw around the area that we want selected. We don't want anything else in this layer other than what we've selected here. Now, we need to feather that. So you've hit MM on your layer, you're going to open up that, and about 30 pixels I think is going to be good. That looks pretty nice. You can see already that looks so much better.
Huge difference.
So now, when we track with it, it's all good. However, we run into another problem. That looks horrible. Looks like he's biting the vine.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
So, what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to create a mat. The way you do that is you simply create a new solid. You can make the solid anything. I usually like to make the solids that I'm going to make a matte green, like a green screen.
Makes
So
sense.
We've got our vine mat here. We're going to put that just above the Photoshop layer. And what we need to do here is we need to make the track mat of this Photoshop layer follow our mat. So we're going to switch this to alpha mat. So now anything that we do on this mat layer will be transferred over to our Photoshop layer. So what I've done here is I've created some masks. So I've applied these masks to our vine mat, and that looks pretty good, but we need to parent that, pick whip it, to the null object. That way it's going to follow our footage.
And that really works because all we're trying to do there is just sell that vine was over top his face. And through the power of masking there, we're able to achieve that.
Perfect. So now this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with everything so far. However, I want to create more realism to the seared face. The way we're going to do that is we're going to create an adjustment layer. So what an adjustment layer does is that any effect or anything you put on the layer itself will impact everything underneath that layer. So we're going to go over here to our effects presets and we're going to grab a curves adjustment, drop that onto the adjustment layer.
Curves is color adjustment, by the way.
And I want to add a lot more red into this shot. So let's go ahead and select red and kind of give that more of that burnt tone to the picture.
And what Brett's doing here is he's only focusing on the mouth area. Obviously, the curves adjustment is affecting the entire shot, but what he will then go and do is section off the mouth area with what? A mask.
A mask. So we're going to go back to our pen tool here. Lovely pen tool. And we're just going to go around the area that I want to affect only, which is right about there. Again, MM brings up our mask of this layer. We're going to feather this till we like what we see. I want to go subtle here. I don't want it to be like blatantly obvious. Yeah. And about there looks pretty good. And you can see what that does to the footage.
You know, I've sat in the theater and watched this scene and observed a bunch of people watching this scene, and without fail, people always grimace and gasp when they see this shot because you can, as you can see, so much time and attention was spent on making this mouth look gross.
We also need to pick whip this to our null object so that we can have that tracking data on the adjustment layer as well.
That looks great.
And there you go, folks. And then when you see that in sequence,
Release him.
it looks awesome.
All you need to do now is create a prosthetic. So if you like what you've seen, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
We hope you learned something in this tutorial. If you did, let us know that in the comment section below. We don't claim to be After Effects experts, but these are tips we've learned along the way. We hope that they're helpful for you. Thanks for watching Varvel Insider.
Oh, good boy. Help me, baby.